homeland of the 30. This area we now call the Fraser Valley Regional District, where we live, work, and learn. Important decisions that we make here at the local government level can affect First Nation communities and Indigenous peoples and organizations in many different ways, both today and into the future. So as part of our collective responsibility, I commit that we continually examine the work that we do here to ensure that our project plans, initiatives, and discussions are guided by the principles of inclusion, collaboration, and reconciliation. And with that, I'd like to call the July 13th meeting of the Regional Corporate Services Committee meeting to order. Ms. Kinnaman, first item.
Thank you, Chair Lung. So looking for approval of the agenda, addenda, and late items.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Actually, just 1 second, not so fast, Director Facio.
Oh.
Actually, Ms. Kinnaman, I believe we have a couple people that have to leave a little bit early, and what I'm wondering is if the committee will entertain a motion to vary the agenda to include the closed portion of the meeting first. It's moved by Director Popov, seconded by Director Pranger. And with that change the agenda, are we okay?
We're okay.
Call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any. The item carries. Thank you. Ms. Kinnaman.
Looking for a resolution to close the meeting.
Thank you.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Director Facio, seconded by Director Dickey. All in favor? Opposed, if any. The item carries.
Okay,
Need
if you
a
just
sec
give us
to-
a couple
yep.
minutes to set up the room. The recess 4.1.
We're recessed at 4.1. Do we have to do the minutes?
We did not do the
No,
minutes.
so we have to do open minutes, right? We ready?
We're ready to go, Chair Lung.
All right, we'll come back from recess, and the next item is item 4.1. Ms. Kinnaman.
Yes, so the draft Regional and Corporate Services Committee open meeting minutes of June 8th, 2023.
Thank
Move,
you.
Mr. Chairman.
It's moved by Director Facio, second by Director Pranger. Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any. Item carries. Next item.
Item 5.1 is the 2023 Treasury update. This is an information item, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Motion number, oh, sorry. Any questions on this information item? Director Dickey?
Thank you. Just quickly, thank you to our finance staff for a very concise explanation of where our funds are invested, and it seems to strike a nice balance between getting good return on our investments while maintaining a good conservative allocation of those funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Hearing none. Next item.
Next is 5.2, which is the Capital Reserve Establishment Bylaws, number 1708, 1709, 1710, 1711, and 1712. There are a number of motions before you.
Thank you.
Move, someone.
Motion number 1 is moved by Director Facio, seconded by Director Dickey. All in favor? Opposed, if any. Item carries. Motion number 2 is moved by Director Dixon, seconded by Director Damo. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed, if any. Item carries. Motion number 3 is moved by Director Dickey, seconded by Director Johnson. All in favor? Opposed, if any. Item carries. Motion number 4. It's moved by Director Damo, second by Director Pranger. All in favor? Opposed, if any. Item carries. Motion number 5. It's moved by Director Dickey, second by Director Johnson. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed, if any. Item carries. Next item.
5.3 is the Financial Plan 2023 to 2027 amendment. There is a motion for your consideration.
Thank you.
Move
That's
motion.
moved by Director Facio, second by Director Popov. All in favor? Oh, sorry, discussion. No, we're good. All in favor? Opposed, if any. Item carries. Next item.
Next is 6.1.1. We have the Solid Waste Facility Authorization Application. There is a motion for your consideration.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Adamo, seconded by Director Dickey. All in favor? Opposed, if any. Item carries. Next item.
6.2.1 is context for recognizing the rights of Indigenous peoples. This is an information item, a bit of a level setting opportunity, some education for our board members, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Hearing none. Next item.
6.3.1 is the Sumas Mountain Regional Park Trail signage, again, an information item.
Thank you. Questions? Hearing none. Next item.
6.4.1 is the 2023 point in time homeless count and survey preliminary figures, again, an information item. We
Thank-
will have a presentation at board on this matter.
Thank you. Questions on this? Thank you. Director Dixon, go ahead.
Just quickly looking at it, and I know over time there's been discussion, but counting in the homeless, or sorry, in the electoral areas, is that happening or kind of in the works? 'Cause this doesn't indicate it as far as I can see.
Ms. Kinnaman?
I see that we have our manager of regional strategic planning, Allison Stewart, at the table, so I would be happy for her to answer that question.
Ms. Stewart?
Yeah, in terms, or through the chair, in terms of the rural areas, it was sort of selected areas, just given the challenges with volunteers and going into some fairly remote areas. So the Chilliwack River Valley was one of the areas that was a focus, and also on crown lands such as park and rides and highway interchanges and that sort of thing. We're sort of within that rural consideration, but it gives you, certainly the data will give us a sense of who is living in these remote or more remote areas rather than an actual counting every person, which is a challenge with any sort of survey of this nature.
Thank you. Director McElhonick?
I just wanted to make note of if people really noticed how many older people are in the count for the first time this year. And in my other role, how many seniors and older people are really struggling out there. So it is a concern in our community.
Director Adamo?
Thanks through the chair to staff. In terms of the number and the counting process, at the time that was taken, so things have changed considerably with the good weather. And I've discovered through all of my areas now that living rough camps have kind of sprung up in many places. And areas like Yale are asking me, well, what do we do about that? Or does somebody have a count? Is anybody aware of them? So is there a process that we go through at this stage? Do we send someone out to have a chat? Do we just approach them on our own? If I happen to be doing a drive-by, are you looking for those continual number changes? I'm just not
Ms.
sure.
Kinnaman?
Through the chair, I'll start perhaps, and then maybe Ms. Stewart can comment. Through the chair to Director Adamo, I think the first thing to keep in mind from the regional district is that our role on this topic is really pretty restricted to the survey that we conduct every 3 years. In terms of process when encampments arise, particularly in the rural areas, many communities have taken a variety of approaches to try to work through that. And of course, we recognize that each electoral area is a little bit different in terms of the proximity to available services. So for those encampments that might be quite in close proximity to a city where there are city services, oftentimes there's opportunities to work with the city staff to connect those folks. For encampments that are on Crown lands, they often involve a phone call to the appropriate ministry to try to develop a multi-jurisdictional approach to work through them. I don't know if Ms. Stewart had anything more that she wanted to add to that, but from a service approach, the regional district doesn't have a role per se in tackling a very challenging issue that we know is very real in most of our rural areas.
Thank you. Ms. Stewart, I see your light, and then I'm going to go to Director McElhonick.
So I just wanted to let you know what we're doing in the Chilliwack River Valley and then what happens in Chilliwack as well. So in Chilliwack River Valley, there's different service providers that have been going out with outreach and developing relationships and that. And when you talk about the homeless count, they take it at the same time every time it's done. And we do know that with the better weather, the populations fluctuate, and they absolutely do. And but I would really recommend that you get a hold of your community services, see what kind of outreach services that you have, get a hold of ministry, and they can go out and actually talk to people and get them set up with income assistance and things like that. But there is no housing, so very, very minimal housing opportunities. But I just want to, if you wanted to sit in on, and I would give this opportunity to anyone in one of our stakeholders meetings. They're very, very effective. We have managers from every ministry. We also have the Ministry of Social Development. We have a couple of different service providers that come out to our valley. We have RCMP, Indigenous RCMP, DFO, and we're actually making some really good traction. And yeah, so that, so there's no solution. There's no people that kind of do this. It's something that you would have to figure out in your own community. But our next meeting will be in August. We're not having a meeting in July. Thank you.
Thank you, Director McCahonic. And I think the other resource that I would point your attention to, and I think Ms. Kinnaman already said this, but both the province announced back in, I want to say September, their heart and heat teams. And so recognizing that there's challenges in the rural areas, the provincial areas, that the province is going to create kind of rapid access supports and outreach to folks experiencing homelessness out in the rural areas. So I'm not sure what has transpired with that announcement, but certainly it would be good to focus on the province there. Director McCahonic. Yeah.
So there's RFPs going out on that.
Yeah, perfect. Hearing no more conversation on that. Next item.
6.4.2 is the Fraser Valley Regional District Regional Growth Strategy Bylaw 1706.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you. It's moved by Director Facio, second by Director Dickey. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
7.1 is update to E911 budgetary risks and next gen 911 transition.
Thank you. Questions? Hearing none. Next item.
7.2 is letter of support regarding disaster mitigation adaptation funding for the city of Abbotsford for Sumas River watershed flood mitigation.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Dickey, second by Director Popov. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
7.3 is guaranteed maximum pricing for Hope and Area Recreation Center upgrades.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Adamo, seconded by Director Popov. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
7.4 is the FVRD Fraser Cascade School District 78 Joint Use Agreement.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Pranger, seconded by Director Adamo. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
Moving down to 9.1, just noting our quarterly update.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Next item.
Item 11, reports by board directors, committee directors.
Thank you. And I'll just preface this by saying that we have a couple directors that I have already notified me they have to get out the door. So that's my polite way of saying keep it under 30 seconds or less. Directors. Oh, look at that. Nobody. Ms. Kinnaman, next item.
Public question period for items relevant to the agenda. We have no one here in our board meeting today, but perhaps we have some folks on the line. And I'll turn things over to Jamie Van Ness.
Ms.
Thank-
Van Ness.
Thank you. We do have one member of the public that's joining us by Zoom today, and this would be your opportunity to ask a question relevant to the agenda, and you could just hit the raised hand function if you do have a question.
Thank you.
And it would appear there are no questions, and we can move on to the next item.
Ms. Kinnaman.
Looking for a motion for adjournment.
move, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Director Facio, second by Director Pranger. All in favor, opposed if any, item carries. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Hey, it was cutting her a little close there, Director Facio. I apologize.